solid. Or not solid.
So what do we learn from this? Well, first and foremost, I shouldn't have bought this car. That's quite obvious. All right, guys, so today is the day I think I'm finally gonna dive into the white car and actually see how bad the sheet metal is or how little sheet metal I actually have in this thing. So we noticed there's a bunch of wheel well rot and a couple bits of roof rot, but we're not really sure entirely what's all in this car. So I wanted to get into it and kind of strip parts of the quarter panel, see what I'm actually working with, as well as the floor pans, as well as parts of the roof. So in this video, we're gonna be hopefully diving in and maybe fixing some of the spots on the floor pan I saw and kind of seeing what I got going on in these quarter panels and the workload ahead of me. So with that being said, let's get right into today's video. There's a lot to go. Alright guys, so I've given myself a day to kind of think about how I'm going to address this, because this is kind of a touchy subject when you put it on YouTube in front of almost 100,000 people. So someone like myself, who's not a professional body guy, at 21 years old, has to be very careful about how I go about addressing this. Now, the white car behind me, unfortunately, is a massive pile of junk. At least right now it is. And here's why. So a lot of you guys previously have said, use this car, don't use the red car, blah, blah, blah. This car is nicer than that one. And I have always said you guys are wrong. And this is why, you know, there's no sugarcoating it. Just look at the quarter panel on this car. Now, I have previously last night kind of stripped this thing down to see what I had to work with. I kind of spent the night using that contour tool and just stripping everything out of that quarter panel on the car, and this is what I found on that driver's side. Now, as you can see, this thing's pretty hollow all the way around, and it doesn't really get much better as you go backwards. This thing is straight Swiss cheese, and for California standards, this car is junk. And it doesn't get much better because, unfortunately, as we go towards the back of the car, you can see this car has been hit at one point or another, whether that be a actual car collision or somebody driving into something with it, you know, even somebody dropping something on the car. But I think somebody driving this car backed into something at one point, because the back corner of the car is pretty beat up right there in that corner, which is really unfortunate. Now, walking over to my red Galaxie, I went ahead and I stripped this quarter panel just because I kind of had some paranoia about what was going to go on with this car. And you can see, you know, rust-wise, this car is solid. There's really a couple pinholes, but what car doesn't have some pinholes in the quarter panels? Really, from there over, it's perfect. And there's just these couple pinholes right here. And as you go down, there's a couple there at the bottom. But really, this quarter panel is in great shape. But as you go back on this car's wavy as hell too. This one had a ton of filler. As you guys saw, I just stripped all that out, and this thing is very wavy. So like somebody hit this thing, but there's just a bunch of little dings. This whole panel is incredibly wavy. I don't know why or how. It's like somebody was dirt drifting this car for months and months and months and kicking rocks at it or what. But this thing is very beat up in this one corner. Not nearly as beat up as the other car though. So that leads me to a kind of consensus I have to figure out. Now, as you probably noticed, there's a tape line on this car. So kind of what I think is going to end up happening is I have a set of quarter panels coming for a 64 Galaxie, brand new. They're actually sitting in the box right there, but I'm not going to show you them yet. So I have a predicament that I'm in, and obviously this is the car that really truly needs quarter panels. However, I'm not keeping both of these cars. One of them will eventually be sold. I like my red one, so I will most likely end up selling this car one day. So with that being said, this car will most likely be getting a brand new quarter panels, which we have in that box.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little voice over here. I changed my mind actually like a couple hours after filming this and never filmed an update clip. So originally, you can see the tape line, I was gonna do the lower half, but as you can see on the red car, the whole quarter is actually not in terrible shape compared to the red one, or the white one. But that tape line I initially put there to try to cut the lower half off and just exchange the upper halves. But in all reality, it's actually easier to just take the entire skin from the red car, peel it off like a big fat sticker, just like I would if I was going to replace the quarter panels on the car, and just take the entire thing and put it onto the white one in one big sheet. It's a lot easier to line up that way. I don't have to worry about body lines, so I think it'd be way more efficient to just go ahead and do it that way.
Because I have never messed with a quarter panel before, so that's going to be my first quarter panel replacement, putting a new OE style quarter on it, and then this is going to be my first quarter repair. So I have two in one shot here, which is going to be very tricky, and unfortunately none of my friends are body guys, and I really don't have that many body guy friends, if that makes sense. So I don't really have anyone to be like, hey, am I doing this right? So I want you guys to be very, very, very understanding as I'm going into this. And in creative criticism, I understand is great. You guys can give me some tips along the way. But if I mess something up, be gentle with me, because like I said, this is my first one. I'm really gonna take my time to make sure I'm not messing this up. I've done a lot of research looking into it. I think I know how I'm gonna attack it, but I gotta just make sure I do it the right way the first time as best that I can. With that being said, I'm gonna kind of ponder about this a little bit, and then we'll come back and I've got a moment to kind of breathe, and then I'll get this car sanded a little bit more, and we'll kind of see where we're going forward. Alright guys, so I've started to kind of figure out where I'm going to do this floor pan. This is a really like low buck, cheap, just floor pan. You can see it's actually handmade. It's not a stamped press. This is actually bead rolled, which is why it has a relief cut in it right here. So this is not quite the most OEM quality, but it's still better than obviously having something like this. So what's going on here is I just put a couple patches in because that's all I thought the thing needed, and then little did I know this entire area was full of Bondo, therefore I kind of have a big issue. So what's going to happen is I kind of marked out where I'm going to cut this thing. I'm going to cut, you know, most of the old metal out, and I'm gonna do what's called a lap weld style repair. So on my F100, I had really high quality panels, so I actually did a butt weld, so they're perfectly flush, and it looks OEM, it looks stock. But on this one, it's gonna be a little bit different, so I'm gonna kind of go 1 inch in from where the actual pan fits, and then I'll just kind of do a little quick lap weld. You can kind of see how it fits right there. I'll cut it about 1 inch in from that. So I got a little bit of a lip for this thing to sit on, and then I'll go ahead and I'll just stitch weld it in. Just a quick, easy little lap weld. This is what I recommend a lot of you guys doing. If you don't have a lot of fabrication experience, it doesn't take that long. You could probably do it in an hour if you really are efficient. And it does the same thing. A lap weld versus a butt weld, it gets carpet over it, not too big a deal, and you don't have stuff like this in your floor. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut all this stuff out and just kind of drop this pan in, start welding it in. You don't need that. Hey, there's my frame. Yeah, you did that just to look at the frame and paint it, right? Yeah, so it gets to the top of the frame because, you know, everyone's going to see that part. Yeah, this'll just basically... I cut this thing in half. It went all the way over there, but I didn't need it. So, just kind of fit it up right here as good as I can. I'll kind of hammer these down and then just clean the metal and stitch weld across it and you're done. It's pretty simple. Doesn't have to be show car quality, but better than a hole. Looks good. Good enough. Be able to put that in and then hammer it and stitch weld it in. Let's see if it fits. Basically, I gotta cut this again, but this will drop in kind of like that, and then we'll have this one right on top of it like so, and then we'll stitch weld it here, and then this will be up against the firewall. I gotta relief cut it here a little more, but that'll work quite well. There we go, just like that. Looks good. Nice, not bad. I like that. Proud of that. So I'm gonna cut it up, get it fitted, and get this thing welded in. Alright, our floor fan install's done. Check this out. Doing a good old self-tapping trick. Look at that. Yeah, I think we should just leave it like that. I like that idea way better. Looks good to me. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's done. Yep. Cool. But realistically what we're doing is we're putting self-tappers in it so we can kind of get it all down and flush, and then we'll stitch weld around it, remove the self-tappers, and weld up the holes. So you can see it's relief cut. It's going to be a little bit of a pain right there because it's got a cut in it. This is an issue because this is really freaking tall right here. Yeah, I mean, you can use it with a hammer to try to beat it down. I bet you just get a self-tapper in there, it'll pull itself down. There it goes. Yeah, it's definitely the way to do that. but. Nice. Perfect. I can stitch weld that together. It's not bad.
Here, let's do this.
Or not solid.
Well, yeah, I don't know how solid.
Not
There
solid.
you go. Floor fan delete.
Okay, put that with the other one.
Now you can get to that bolt.
Yeah, right? Well, this looks pretty good. So now I'll lay our other one on top of it and lap weld it like we were saying. And I'm going to cut out all the corroded material up here and then put that new piece that I made in, and it should work pretty well. Alright, I got it all self-tappered in. You can see that one's fitted over there. This one's fitted now, roughly. Got all my self-tappers in it. Now we're going to go ahead and go around the perimeter and clean everything. I've got my firewall panel in there. You know, nice fit. Nothing's popping or warping weird. So I'm going to go ahead and clean. I've got everything marked on my edges. I'll give myself a 1-inch clean strip of metal to weld to. I'm going to peel this back and then cut out all the corroded material behind that. We've already cut the floor pan out of here. So now I have the new panel in, and then we're going to peel that back, cut it out, and then weld all the new stuff in. We should be good to go.
Are you really going to record this?
Hell yeah, I got you welding. You're doing sheet metal for your first time, dog. Give yourself like a 1/4-inch gap, and then, yeah, just like how you're holding it. Just flip,
like that?
Yeah, flip your hood down and just fold it for like a second, 1 to 2 seconds, and then lift up.
Yeah, I'm trying to see, like, I think my issue is
Then move the flashlight.
getting it to the right spot.
Then move the flashlight, the one over there. Go a little closer. There you go. I would have held it a little longer, but that was perfect.
Yeah.
There you go. Better. I'd hold it maybe a little bit longer than that. You're getting there though. There you go. Alright guys, so a little update for you. We've had about a day to kind of weld this thing in, and I want to make a point very clear that hopefully will inspire you guys to get out and try this yourself. So this is the driver's side floor pan, which we kind of had a couple patches we made up here, down here, and up in the corners, because this doesn't come with the entire floor pan, so we had to make a few pieces. But I didn't weld any of this. Now this is our second pass after grinding. You can see Patrick's kind of gone along and started to grind down the spots that he missed and re-weld in some of those other spots. So this is lap welded, so I have some self-tappers there to kind of help guide us in the right direction. But it's coming out really good. And I also want to keep in mind that 3 guys, Marty, Patrick, and Noah, are the ones that all 3 learned how to weld. They've never welded in their life. I mean, they've learned how to weld and welded this in for me, I guess, as a way to learn, and it came out good. And now we'll go ahead and we'll shave this down with the flat disc and then go ahead and seam seal it. We'll be good to go, and then we'll put some paint on that, and I think it'll be awesome for many years to come, and there's nothing wrong with it. I see no issue with that. So on this side, I've got all the old rusty metal cut out of the floor. You can see our lower half of the cab mount. I have holes drilled so I can weld through them and put bolts through them if I need to kind of get the upper and lower halves of the floor all together in one. And then I have, sitting over here, the 2 pieces that we made. So you saw that I made this piece from scratch in a vise. It's just some 18 gauge. We put a flat piece of stock on it and bent it in the vise. And then the actual like eBay floor pan right here that goes with it. And they'll kind of screw together, and then we'll screw them into the floor here. So the lap weld trick, definitely the easiest bang for your buck. If you want to just do it in a couple days, get a new floor in your truck or car, definitely the way I recommend doing it, because they can just go around, self-tap it, it aligns it, it keeps it down and flush so it's not lifting, and then you kind of just weld around the edges. And then if you really care enough, you can go along the bottom and self-tap it up so these bottom corners are flush, You could stitch weld the bottom too if you want, but that's kind of, you know, your own personal preference. But this works. This is plenty fine. It's a lot better than what it was, and I think it'll be great. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this piece in and start welding this side. Alright guys, I got the floor panel finished up. You can see it's all nice and painted now. This is the side. I want you guys to understand that I did not do almost any of the work on this side. I mean, yeah, I shaped the panels and I tacked them in, but I didn't weld any of this in. And it looks just fine. I mean, this is going to work, you know, for many years to come once we seam seal it, because we're going to seam seal all the welds, so they're watertight and airtight. This thing will be just fine. So I just put some primer on it there. This was Patrick, Marty, and Noah that welded this thing in. This was all three of them have never touched a welder in their life. You can see they made a nice, good floor pan, so I'm really proud of them for that. I really appreciate the help there. I went ahead and I did this side. This panel, Marty and I broke from scratch. You can see the top piece, and then kind of worked our way down, and it came out really, really good. So I'm happy with that. And yeah, this car now has 2 floors, and it took about a day's worth of work. Kind of taken over 2 days just because I was teaching 3 guys how to weld. But really happy with the way that came out, and now the car has good floors, so now we can kind of work our way back to this area, which we all know is going to be a lot of fun. So yeah. So what do we learn from this? Well, first and foremost, I shouldn't have bought this car. That's quite obvious. But if I wanted to get you guys to take away one thing from this video, it's that you shouldn't be afraid to put a floor pan in your car, because it's actually not a crazy amount of work, and you don't need to be a crazy fabricator to do it. There's the wrong way to do it, which is how the car came, with a bunch of Bondo slapped in the floor to cover it all up, and then it doesn't work at all, and then it just creates more holes. There's the lap weld version that I did, which gives you about a 1-inch lip around the whole end. You get it to drop in place, and then you weld it. I used self-tappers to hold it all down so it stayed flush, welded it all, and then welded up all the holes, and we were good to go. And then there's the butt weld technique, where the 2 panels are perfectly right next to each other, and it looks seamless, and then you shave down the welds, and it's a OEM restoration. You know, that's like the correct by the books way to do a floor pan. But what we did here works fine, and for, you know, a weekend warrior like a lot of you guys are, this thing should work perfectly for you. And I really hope you guys choose to do it in your own truck, because it takes probably I think both panels were like 75 bucks, 70 or 75 bucks a piece, and then a little bit of fit and finish work and some 18 gauge steel just here and there. And I think for like under 150 bucks we put 2 new floors in the car, and it came out really good, and I'm really happy with it. So we're gonna steam seal that, go ahead and put some Dynamat more material in it, and get it prepped for carpet. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video with this thing. We gotta start cutting the quarter panels off this car, and maybe a trunk, so we got a lot of work to do. But I'll see you guys then. Bye guys.